All right, guys. Today's guest is a confidence coach, a hype woman, and is the founder of Health Hyped, which is an online program designed to help women build their confidence in and out of the gym. Working as a trainer at F45 when COVID hit, completely stopping her income, passion, and future plans, she was left thinking, what am I going to do next? When others were complaining and being the victim, she spent her last bit of cash on a computer and decided to start writing online programs and selling them online. In her first day of business, she made $10,000, had no freaking clue how it happened, and then has now gone on to reach over $85,000 in a month, on track doing her first seven-figure year at the age of 23. So please help me welcome the woman who went from working in a cafe at the age of 14 to now on her way to becoming a millionaire in her 20s, my friend, Miss Chloe Bromage.
Thank you for having me.
Chloe Bromage.
Bromage.
How are you?
I'm so good. Thank you for having me. I'm really excited.
I'm excited. I'm excited because obviously, like, you spoke at Dreamfest. I don't actually really know you, to be honest.
No, you don't.
That's why, you spoke at Dreamfest because I like your energy and I see what you do from afar. And sometimes when I bring people on here, I'm like, I either know everything about them and I want my guests to hear it, or I want to unpack your brain in real time while my guests get to check it out. So that's what we're going to do with you.
Yes, I love it.
So what's really cool is we're just putting together your bio. You're 23 now. You're on track this month to like over 100K, which is freaking wild. And when did you start this business?
June last year.
June last.
So, bit of both. June last year, and then the fitness was the end of 2020. So there's been two businesses now that both result in that income.
Hectic.
Yeah.
Okay. So here you are, not too long ago, working as an F45 worker. What were you making an hour? What were you making a week?
Oh, $900, I think.
$900 a week.
Ish,
right?
yeah.
And now what's been your biggest week?
Over 20K.
Over 20K in 1 week.
Yeah.
I know that there's a lot more that actually happens other than just selling shit or growing a business for you to mentally grow your financial thermostat from $900 a week to $20,000. What was the biggest? How did you create that change? Like that's a big jump in a very short amount of time. What were the biggest things for you?
Absolutely. If you had told me that even making over $10,000 in a week was possible when I was making $900 a week, I wouldn't have believed you. I didn't really believe in the energetics of money, and I didn't really believe that there had to be like a certain mindset and a certain capacity that you had to have to be able to hold that type of money. Because it's easy to make money in a sense, but it's really easy to let it go as well. And so for me, what changed was working on, as cliche as it sounds, my mindset. And so I actually hired a mentor towards the end of last year, and I basically had to work with her in order to unpack a lot of my money stuff. I was someone that I couldn't even buy like undies and socks. I couldn't even spend my money on that because the fear of letting money go, I was a hoarder. I save it and save it and save it and save it and like don't let it go because it was so scary. So the ability to be able to make that and then also let it ebb and flow is huge.
So talk to us about that, like, because the word energetics gets thrown around a lot.
Yes.
And even like I understand it, but I don't understand it. I'm not going to sit here and be like, I'm going to teach on it. So can you unpack that? What were the biggest things you've learned in when it comes to energetics around money and I guess getting over low frequency?
Yeah,
low
it's exactly what it
vibing?
is. 100%.
Yeah.
Mine was learning how to tap into high frequency. And again, as wishy-washy as that sounds, because like you say, everyone throws around and you've just got to be in a high frequency. I don't really need to don't believe you need to be in a high frequency all the time because I don't. It's like saying you need to be positive all the time. It doesn't work that way. But my kind of belief is that I had to work on my attachment to money. Money was also a fearful thing for me. And so I think that any time that you let money control you is when you believe that money's worth is greater than your own worth. So almost working on my self-worth allowed me to be able to hold more money and make more money. And I think that was the biggest change for me because how often do most people let their, fear of having to pay bills and do this and do that, like control their whole life? It's about having 0 cents and it's scary. And so what do? You always move in fear of losing money rather than moving in a positive mindset of what if I could make more? Like, is that even a possibility for me? And so I think really switching my belief on that in the weirdest way allowed me to attract and make more money.
So is part of being more energetically aligned to wealth, is it a matter of just lots of limiting beliefs and stuff, or is it something completely different.
It's limiting beliefs. Yes, I believe that's a huge part of it, but it's also getting yourself in rooms with people that make money. For me, because again, like I said, $900 a week, I'm surrounded by people that complain about the price of a $5 coffee and complain about the price of avocado toast. And next minute I find myself in a room when I met my partner of people that were talking about 5-figure weeks and 6-figure weeks and 6-figure months. So therefore, like, my ceiling was already challenged, because I really believe, like you just said, there's a bit of a thermostat. We all have a capacity, but then I also believe that you can grow that capacity and it can enlarge. And so for me, putting myself in rooms with people that even just spoke about that was a game changer. And it was uncomfortable as all heck. I could not, like, if you asked me 12 months ago what I earned, I probably wouldn't have been able to tell you, because I was embarrassed. And that's the thing. And dropping the embarrassment around money, dropping the way that we have such a negative attachment to it is a really big game changer as well.
Do you think you can be good embarrassed about money? Like in this context, because you said you're in rooms with people that are making so much more money. So obviously if you were to compare yourself to them, it'd be more on the embarrassing side. But me, for one, I've always said that as a goal. I've always been like, I want to be the dumbest and the poorest in every room I'm in. And I don't look at it as a negative light to be like, I'm embarrassed by how much money I make. But if some people around me, I said, how much money did you make last month? I don't hold it true to be like shameful of myself, but I'm like, yeah, fuck, I don't want to tell you how much I made last month, because it's nowhere near to what you made. Like, do you think can you look on it as like a good light? Is that something positive, or is that energetically screwing people up too?
No, I believe it's positive. If you let it be positive, and again, it's a choice. If I allow that to be a catalyst and asking myself, hey, I can do that too, that's available to me too, then you won't, like you say, you may feel a little bit of embarrassment. You're a human, that's fine. But it's going to allow you to think bigger, dream bigger, take more action, as opposed to, if you're closed off to it, you're just going to make it about you and feel shameful and then not try. And in my opinion, they're both choices.
Yeah. So how did you go about getting yourself into these environments? Because literally, like you've seen me speak at Dreamfest. The first thing I talk about in creating any change is you got to be in the right environment. Like the 4 pillars of creating a dream life is, the first one is the right environment. So I think if for the listeners and viewers here, they know, or they should know by now, you got to get in the right environment. So how does little Chloe Bromage, 21, 22 years old, go from $900 a week surrounding yourself with people who complain about $5 coffees and avo toasts to surround yourself with people that are making 5-6 figures in a week?
It was me getting sick of my own shit, if I'm honest. It was me getting sick of, I am always complaining. I am always worried. I am always this, I'm always that. So podcast was actually the start. I'm just leaning in and like, listening to people talk about that stuff. At the time, it probably went in one ear and out the other, because I was like, that's for other people. That's not for me. And then it looked like me actually removing myself away from friends that no longer served me, as much as that was really hard. But I kind of, like I said, I got sick of my own self for consistently complaining and consistently, I don't want to go to work today. And I'm like, I'm 21 and I don't want to go to work today. Like, what's the rest of my life going to look like? And so I was living in Brisbane at the time, and then I moved back down to the Gold Coast, and it actually looked like me getting into, I think I watched a free masterclass. Like, I watched a YouTube video and then it was a link to a free, so it was just free.
Who?
No, I can't even think now. It wasn't anyone that I don't think I've ever looked at again since. Yep. But it was just, it sparked something in me that I hadn't felt before. And I was like, okay. And then I met my partner very soon after that, which he opened a door for me to meet a lot of people. His network is amazing. I mean, that's how I met you too, was through him. Yeah. So his network is amazing. And so that conversation kind of sparked me, okay, well, what can I do to even be, relatable to people like that? And so therefore then I hired a mentor, and that's where I went with that. So it was a very big stretch for me at the time. It was $12,500. Yep. And at that time that was like, made me feel sick. I was like, people don't spend that type of money. And I did a payment plan and all those sorts of things. I think it was like a $2,000 deposit. And even then I was like, oh, but there's something about spending that much money on yourself, because that's a promise. I've got to show up. That I have to show up to that, because if I don't, that's therefore a waste of $12,000 that I technically don't have right now. And what's so funny is, it makes sense, that was a catalyst for me to be able to ask the right questions. And she's someone that makes a lot of money and does things that I wanted to do. And so getting myself in a room with someone who did what I wanted to do was an absolute game changer.
Yeah, it's so like, I talk about this all the time. It's like, creating success is really not that freaking hard.
No.
Go and find someone who has the things that you want, and go and pay them whatever they charge to get in close proximity of how they think, because we're a byproduct of our environment's belief system and value system. So like you can't, let's say like if you value growth and you value success and all these sorts of things, but you hang around people who just value partying and blowing all their money, you won't be like them. We hang around people that are like us or are like someone that we want to be like. You just won't actually, you won't be in that friend circle. It just won't actually gel. That's why if people look around their friend circle right now, you all have similar interests. And I think like what I love so much about you is you're looking for people who also value those things, but they're not just talking about it.
No.
They're freaking doing it.
Action takers.
So action takers are money makers.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
So ingrained in with it.
Yeah.
Anyway, so when you started hanging around these people, right? You're not making much money. You're young, and you're a female.
Yeah.
Not that it's got anything to do with it, but I know a lot of people these days, they hold the limiting beliefs, especially women. But I'm a woman, blah blah blah.
Mm.
When you're hanging around these people, did that bring up any sort of like imposter syndrome stuff? Like what should I do here? Like why am I in this circle? Anything like that? Like was it uncomfortable for you to be around people that you were nowhere close to yet?
Yeah, absolutely. The conversations were hard because I'm someone that I could talk, to a brick wall. So for me, it's like, so for me, it was like, I can't relate to these people. But I don't know if it was, again, using the word energetically, but like almost intuitively, I was like, this is my space to be. And so like, I kept showing up to coffee and I kept asking questions and I kept doing these things, even though it didn't really feel that legit. And to be honest, if my partner had asked me questions about money or he would talk about the money that he made, that would activate me like so much, or triggered, or whatever you want to call it. Like I would get like, and I would never outwardly, say anything, but internally that challenged a lot of my beliefs. However, now I'm so grateful for that. Because if he hadn't kind of pushed me to talk about it and pushed me to go like, well, what do you actually want to make? Because how easy is it? You ask someone what you want to make. Oh, $100,000 would be nice. Oh, $200,000 would be nice. I'm like, no, what do you actually want to make? And we always kind of shoot below out of fear of failure. And so I think one thing that I appreciate about myself is I've never actually been scared to fail. I'm okay with it. I'm comfortable too, but I'm confident. I'm confident in my ability to fall over and get back up. And I think that's the difference.
Yeah, 100%. Like that's the thing I talk about a lot. Like I think a lot of people, well, I don't think, I know. Like my whole 3-day Dream Lad method is built massively around helping people overcome doubt and fear. Because I just know they doubt themselves or their ability to do things, or they're scared. Paradoxically, most people are scared of success and then scared of failing.
Yes.
So that they're damned if they do, they're damned if they don't. So they don't do anything. And like, well, and that's what's crazy. And I call it people living the 7 out of 10 life, because it's like, well, I can be 7 out of 10 and I'm comfortable here. There's no fear here. It's just, I'm going to chill. But I challenge people to go forward to when they're 80 and ask themselves, what's scarier? Taking a little bit of action now or being in the exact same position when they're 80. So that's what I do to, like, I consistently do that. And any of my programs, people have been to it, I often bring in, like, helping them face off with who they might become. And people just make radical decisions, like life-changing decisions. So where do you think the lack of fear of failure has come from for you? Or do you just have some sort of other mental way to sort of just bypass it? Because I think fear is normal. I think it's everybody gets fear. It matters. Like I just spent last week jumping out of a freaking plane, getting my skydive license.
See, I can't do that.
It's like you can, right?
That's true.
But it's like, so I've got my ways of how do I overwrite the fear, because fear is just completely like it's not real. But how do you do it? In
the weirdest way, the gym. I consistently, on a regular basis, put myself in positions that I push myself past the limit that I thought possible. So as basic as it sounds, doing 12 calories on a salt bike, putting my hand up to speak first in primary school was something that I did. And teachers used to choose me to go first because they just know that I would. And so from a little person, I always, weirdly enough, I don't know if it's just in my personality or what, but I wasn't afraid to just give things a shot. But as an adult, it's still a conscious choice, because like you say, it's either a fear of success or a fear of failure, but either way, you're just scared of being alone. And one thing that I'm not afraid to be is alone.
Yeah.
And I think that's the difference. And so, yeah, whether it's like hitting a new PB in the gym, but that teaches you a kind of discipline that a lot of people don't have.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah.
One thing I just wrote down here, right, because you talked about, I forget what you said before, how much do you want to make? And most people say 100 grand, 200 grand.
Yeah.
That's just a showing of your money mindset now, because most people listening to this going, I've never even thought of 100 grand a year. Right? Now, you might have been thinking 100 grand a month, 200 grand a month.
No, I was thinking a year.
You're right. But like some people are like, even that's big. And there was actually a study. They did this study. They put 2 job applications, the exact same the exact same job application in the paper 2 times. One time they said job application, this, $65,000 a year. And then they tested again a month later, the exact same job application, $140,000 job a year. And they got something like, it was something about 20. It was something about, I can't get the numbers out right now. It was close to about 8 to 10 times more applications for the lower one.
I'm not surprised.
Than the higher one. And it's a direct reflection of we'll ask for whatever we believe we're worth of receiving
Absolutely.
in this world. So that's why I really think like because if you're making $900 a week, it's because you believe you're worth that.
Absolutely.
If you're making $20,000 a week, it's because you believe you're worth that. So what have you done in the last couple of years to increase your self-worth?
It's wild, isn't it? Because if you had told me that when I was making $900 a week, I would have been like, I am worth more than $900 a week. You know what I mean? But you're right. And I think, and is it Wallace Waddles or whatever, that's what he said. He was like, you can't live a success, or like a free life or something like that without being rich. And I actually think reading that in a book kicked me in the face because it's true.
Say that again.
You can't. He's basically like, you can't have a happy life or you can't live a free life. I can't remember, without being rich. And people that have a weak money mindset are offended by that comment. And the first time I read that comment, I was offended by it. And it's so funny, like I said earlier about like you actually believe, the only time that I think you ever have issues with money is when you believe that money is worth more than you. So for me, it was a lot of self-worth stuff, but I think I had to let my self-worth go in the ground first. So that happened after I had a breakup when I was like, I think 18 or 19, as you do when you think you're in love and you're that young. And it tore me to shreds. And it was, my self-worth was basically like below the floor. That was a catalyst for me to continue working on myself and unpack a lot of the things that I had going on in my life as a kid and stuff like that. We all have it, childhood trauma, all those things. But I almost got a little bit addicted to personal development. Reading a book, listening to a podcast, doing those things. And I think once I started, I just never stopped. So like I said before about investing the 12.5K for that, that coaching container, at the time before that, that was, I couldn't have fathomed that. So it was buying a $30 book that was originally a stretch. It was taking myself or saying no to, like you said before, going out with people and drinking on the weekends. That was me choosing me. And that's like, no, I'm worth more than that. It was me continuously looking at ways that I could better myself as a person. And I think I just haven't stopped doing that. And that's the only difference. People start and then they stop.
So how did you determine the difference of the things you need? So what I'm hearing is you're now actually looking at all the things that people are offering you, opportunities to do sorts of things, and you're choosing you first before just saying yes to things. Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So how do you determine the difference of what you need to say no to? How do I frame this question? Like, if you're saying, because people who say yes to every single thing, they're most likely doing it because they're afraid that if they say no, they might get judged or they get think or whatever, right? They might be saying yes to things just to get approval.
Yeah.
So how do you determine the difference of things you should say yes to and things you should say no to?
I usually just think about my future self.
Like,
is that going to serve me later down the track? Like even in regard to like, is a hangover going to serve me tomorrow? No. Things like that. And I think what changed the most for me was getting really clear on what I valued. And if you ask people what their values are, right? And I always say, but you can't say kindness, love, loyalty, respect. What are your actual values? And most people can't answer. Because those are the ones you rattle off because they're easy. It's because of what everyone says. But it wasn't until I got really clear on like, well, what do I actually value? Health. What do I actually value? Freedom. What do I actually value? Wealth. That I was like, majority of the choices that I'm making aren't in alignment with any of those values. And that's a kick in the face. Because if you realize that all the choices you've been making in your life are like not in alignment with who you are, you can either choose to take that and run with it and make your life better, or you can bully yourself for it, shame yourself for it and not change. And what I see is most people don't change. Because it's easier.
So when it comes to life, your life, what's most important to you?
That's hard. I feel like I have the top 5 values.
What are they?
Health and fitness, family, connection, wealth, and freedom.
Yeah.
And connection, maybe connection's the top one because it's connection with my family, it's love, it's my friends. Like I really value that.
Yeah. And I see your life, it's built around that, right? And what I truly believe, and for the people listening, because I asked that question because I know people would be listening and they're like, well, what do I value?
Yeah.
I start off that question. What's important to you in life?
Yes.
Right. We got to find things that are important to us. And what I find is people are unfulfilled if they're not doing things that are in line with their values. But if you're unfulfilled doing something, then you're not going to make a lot of money from that either.
No way.
I don't think so.
No, me neither.
So you teach a lot of confidence stuff as well.
Yes.
And answer me this. Do you have to be super confident and like you to be successfve?
No. People think that confidence is who I am. I'm loud. Extroversion to
Not that loud.
I've got my quiet voice on today.
First time I met you. You remember the first time I met you?
No. Yes, and on Corey's podcast.
I was on Corey's podcast, which Corey's been on this podcast as well.
Yeah.
And we just finished this interview. The next minute, you like open the door like that's who's that Kramer on Seinfeld, like this energy. Oh my god!
That's exactly what happened.
Like this, and I'm like,
what the fuck is that?
I don't know what the fuck she said, but I like this girl. I'm like, yeah, cool.
I remember the look that you gave me. You like bug-eyed, were just nodding, and I was like, this guy has no idea what I just said for the last 5 minutes.
Yeah, and then I'm just wondering, I'm like, how do you guys do this as a relationship? Because Corey's also like, yeah.
You know what's so funny? We actually like cancel each other out.
Yeah, that's what you're saying.
People think that we both like, no, it's like when we're together, we're like, and that's why it's so funny. But back to the confidence. It's people, and I often say that to clients. I'm like, I don't want you to be confident like me. I am loud, I am vivacious, and like if you look at photos of me as a 2-year-old, I have always been like this. Always. Like I've always been over the top. I want you to be confident. Confidence is your ability to know that if something goes wrong or you fail, you will be okay. And people don't really understand that. It's like confidence is self-trust. It's knowing I've got me if shit goes wrong. So that can be, a quiet person can have confidence. An introverted person can have confidence. But usually, like you say, confidence is tied to success because people that are successful are willing to take risks. And if you're willing to take risks, you're usually okay to fail. And if you fail, you trust yourself enough to know you'll be all right. And so that's where the confidence plays in. But people, I think, often confuse confidence with a big ego, right? And there is a fine line between the two.
There is. And I remember, for so long, I don't know if you'd believe this or not, but I used to hate public speaking.
Yeah, that's wild.
Now I do it
for a living.
For a whole thing. And I hated it, right? And I was sitting in a speaker training event one day with my mentor, and I had the question. I asked him, how do you speak passionately about the things that you care about while remaining humble? And he's like, fuck humble.
I was going to say, I don't believe in humble either.
And I'm like, interesting. What do you mean? He's like, humble is a word that's been made up by broke and unhappy people to keep you playing in their box, their standard. And it's an Australian thing as well.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. And then, so that's when I just I guess he kind of gave me that permission to be confident and passionate and certain in who I am and what I can do, but be aware of the ego. Because I think when ego is involved, then it's cocky.
It is.
Like, I think if you were to stand up and be like, I'm better than everybody else, it's cocky.
It is.
But if you're like, hey, I know I'm fucking great and so is everybody else, then that's certainty.
It is.
Right? Where do you think the lack of certainty or lack of confidence starts from or comes from?
I think it's people's parents, because like you just said, I think most people don't believe in themselves. And most people, as we're kids, the words egotistical, right? Stay humble, that gets thrown around from when we're little people. So we grow up assuming that that's a bad thing. I always used to shame myself for being quote unquote too much because people perceived it as wrong or whatever. And so I think if we can choose to unlearn that, right. And I think people are getting clearer on it now because it's personal development and changing the way that you think and feel and unpacking a lot of stuff is a lot more common now than it used to be. But I think it's down to also, in my opinion, what your parents allow you to do and not do. So for me, I was always encouraged to go and try things as a kid. All of the people that I know that weren't encouraged, it's okay, you can just give up. The kids that start a sport for 1 week and then their parents like, it's okay. If I started a sport, my mum was making me go to every goddamn training and you go, you finish it. That built resilience and I think that built confidence in me, right? And I think in that, not enough people are willing to give, things a go out of fear of being perceived in a certain way. So they'd rather just not give things a go at all. And that's my opinion on it.
I love that. Okay. So here's what, like I said, I just spent the last week skydiving, right? Mm-hmm. So getting my skydive license. Day one, they sit us through 8 hours of PowerPoint presentations of everything that can go wrong with the parachute, how it goes wrong, how people die, how to not die. And pretty much after this presentation, you're going to be out there on your own. So I hope you remember everything for the last 8 hours. Then we did one tandem jump, right? So we jump out with an instructor, then we parachute ourselves down. That was all I got through it, and mentally I'm like, this is fucking insane. I don't know why am I even doing this? This is mental. And I called Simone that night and I said to her, I'm like, I don't know if I'm going to do this. Like, I really don't know if, like, is the juice worth the squeeze? Like, I don't know if I really want, just sounds absolutely insane. Like, this is the real deal. And she's like, well, just come home then if I'm like, I got a gut feeling, like, because then I'm really trying to listen to my body. I'm like, is this fear or is this my intuition saying, don't do this?
Yeah.
And it was the first time I was really unclear. And I'm like, I'm going to sleep tonight. I'm going to wake up tomorrow. I'm going to see how I feel. And then I thought to myself this, because I understand how dopamine receptors work in our head. I understand how confidence and success really freaking builds. And like what you just said, you're like, it starts when people are young because their parents will not allow their kids to actually succeed at anything. And even the things that they do accomplish, they don't reward themselves or acknowledge that they've done it.
Mm.
And I just know, because I spend the majority of my life being unconfident and actually shy, I was only like more out there with people I was close with. And now I just understand that the principles of success are quite simple. That if you can have the courage to take the first step and then fail your way down, literally, and just hope the parachute will open, like and then when I land on the ground for the first time after I jumped solo, so here we are, day 2, they throw me out of plane solo, right? And they jump out next to you. So they're watching you, and then you pull your chute, but then you're completely on your own. And now I'm up there, I'm doing all my checks, But when I pulled the first chute and I looked up, and then you have to count to 6 to seek. So if your parachute doesn't come out after 6 seconds, you start emergency stuff.
Yeah.
So I'm going 1,000, 2 1,000. And I'm like, and then I get ripped off. I'm like, oh shit. And then emergency stuff. I'm checking. I'm like, boom, 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 boom. Okay, got it. And then after that, so the jump, I'm like, oh, I feel good about the jump now. Now it's in past as relevant. The parachute came out. Oh, cool. Now, cool, confident. Now the next thing, I got to land this fucking thing. I land it. I roll into the ground, and then I scream. I'm like, yeah. I'm like, let's go again. Because I'm like, I just don't have a freaking airplane. I got myself comfortably. But did I believe I could do that in the morning? No.
Yeah.
But all I focused on was, can I muster up enough bravery, enough confidence to take the first step and not actually know what's going to happen next and just figure out as I go down? And that built the confidence for me. And then yesterday I just did my 10th jump, and I'm like, I said to someone, I'm like, I think you gotta maybe lose your boyfriend a bit. I think I'm gonna spend a lot of time up there jumping now, because that's really how confidence builds. So
it does.
Apart from, do you do this? Do you like backtrack? Because what I do is I'll look at all the things I've accomplished, I've achieved, succeeded at, because I know it builds up more confidence. Like you see sporting teams all the time, they get one win, and then they're like, boom, 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 they just keep winning. So what are some little tricks or hacks that you do to like build more confidence daily?
Yeah, there's an exercise I do for some of my clients. I actually get them to almost write like a congratulation letter to themselves for like everything that they've done. I was like, I don't care if you won like in first grade a spelling bee, like I want you to write it down, because it's so easy to remember the one time you failed as opposed to the 50 times that you succeeded. So that's something I think it's important to remember. I think I'm just really confident in, and like you just said, confidence is the byproduct of you doing the thing. People think that the confidence is you get it, like it's a thing, tangible item, and then you go. It's like, no, it builds as you continue to move. So for me, I continue to, as cliche as it sounds, push myself outside of my comfort zone, whether that's literally as basic as having hard conversation with my friends, as doing something, probably not skydiving, but doing things like that. And I'm even like what you just said about, the difference between, is it actual fear? Is it my intuition? I don't know. I really don't believe that we have desires unless we actually do want to do that thing. Like you wouldn't have paid to go if there wasn't part of you that wanted to do it. And I believe some people are strong enough to quiet that voice and other people aren't. And it's just about learning that voice, that fear, whatever it is to stop you, it never actually goes away. You just learn to like tell it to shut up a little bit more. And so it's like, if like I even just said, using the gym example, if I can go to the gym and I know that this hurts and I know it's hard and I can't go 30 seconds longer, but I go 30 seconds longer, that's proving, hey, I can do hard things. So that's why I think most people don't succeed. It's because most people don't do hard things. They get their 9 to 5, it's comfy. They marry their high school partner, it's comfy. They buy their dog, it's comfy. They go to the same pub every Friday, it's comfy. And whilst there's nothing wrong with doing that, and I love that if that's what you actually want to do, most people don't know what they actually want to do. So therefore they don't build confidence at all.
Where does self-worth come from?
I actually don't know. Well, it's your belief about yourself.
And how does someone increase the levels?
I think it's building confidence. 100%.
So
Yeah, it's doing hard things. As basic as it sounds, I know. Yeah. My self-worth increased when I continued to push myself in small areas, doing things at work, asking people, putting myself out of my comfort zone, as basic as it sounds. My self-worth grew when my confidence grew with it.
Yeah. I asked you a question because I knew the answer.
Yeah.
But because
I didn't know if you were asking my self-worth.
Well, I know I wanted to see what you'd say, but you kind of already answered it because sometimes I'd like to ask questions from my guests of things that I already talk about. So the audience are like, okay, more than one person have said it. Because you just said it. Like, did you feel really high self-worth when you were working at F45? No. But now you can look back and be like, fuck, man, I made $10,000 in a day.
Yeah.
And when I spent my last bit of money on a laptop, and so all you've done to really raise your self-worth and call it confidence, self-worth, is actually looking back at all the things, the decisions you've made in your life. And instead of looking at, okay, I've made some shitty decisions, sure. But instead of, focusing on them, you've actually used it. Because here's the thing, like, we can make anything mean anything and we can decide on anything. So why not look back at all the things that has happened in your life? And if you're going to single out any, why not single out all the things that make you feel good about yourself?
Absolutely.
Because I think a lot of people are struggling with self-worth these days because they don't do shit that's worthy.
Absolutely not.
They do things in their comfort zone. Like you were just saying, they date the same person. They do the same things over and over and over and over. And one day they wake up, they look themselves in the mirror and be like, I'm not proud of who I am. Well, yeah, man, because you've shied away from every single thing that you got led, the universe, God, whatever, led you to the edge for you to leap. And you said no.
Yeah.
And of course, your unconscious mind will look at you and be like, well, I don't believe you when you want to set that next goal because you didn't even get up at 5 a.m. when you said you get up at 5 a.m. after reading the 5 a.m. book. Absolutely. You didn't do this, you didn't do that. And it starts to it's like this downward spiral.
Absolutely. My mom often says the life will give you a whisper in the ear, a tap on the shoulder, and then a boulder over the head. And it's like the life gives you little bits and bobs of like, come on, let's move. Come on, let's move. And then one day the boulder is your partner leaves you. Or you look at the mirror and you don't know who you are. You lose your job, things like that. And it's like life gives you, if you're willing to listen, like you say, whether it's the universe or God or whatever it is that you believe in, life will give you little hints as like you are worth more. You can do more, but it's you that has to believe it. And sadly, it makes me sad when I think about it. Most people don't. Most people don't lead an extraordinary life. And it's cool. It's what about you, about me, and the people that we know, the people in our life, pretty much all of them lead an extraordinary life. So doesn't it make sense that we too lead an extraordinary life? But people just automatically assume that stuff is too far out of reach for them. And it doesn't have to be.
Yeah. This is why I love that you open the conversation with the environment. That's why I start everything. Because I remember years ago I made this video. It's actually one of the first videos I did on, like, I never used to be, like, I used to hate putting myself out there.
Yeah.
So like, I did a video. I was talking to my friend about this thing, like our perception of normal. Like, what do we believe normal is? And I'm like, that's okay. Me and him were dressed in a banana outfit on a Sunday, just screwing around, having fun.
Yeah.
Skateboard, and I said, isn't it interesting? Like, I used to spend all my Sundays hungover as hell and not doing anything, recovering, dreading the next day. And now, here's me and you dressed as a banana just for fun, not caring about judgment, not caring about anything, just enjoying life. And I'm really excited for the week ahead and what I'm about to do. Isn't it interesting how my perception of what is normal has changed?
Yes.
And he's like, oh, you should make a video about it. I'm like, no. But I ended up making this video, but it literally is that, right? Because if you hang around people that are they're still broke, still complaining, still gossiping, still being a victim and still going nowhere, that's normal. Mm-hmm. So if we grew up in that sort of cage and we're like, oh, well, I'm broke because that's...
Yeah, because being broke is normal.
Yeah, because well, if I was rich, it'd be weird.
Yeah.
But if you're broke in a community that's really rich, then that's not normal in this community. So this is what happens every single time. That's probably, you start dating Corey and it's like the new normal. We talk about these sorts of things and you're forced. This is why I love just the power of changing your environment, because
absolutely
you'll be you'll be dragged up to their standard of living, or the environment will pull you down.
Yep. And people really think, like you actually said before, about people who are either scared of success or scared of failure. Either or makes you feel alone. And people would rather be surrounded by people, no matter who those people are, than to feel alone. And I think that's the difference, right? Because like you say, what's the normal, whatever. Yeah, but you have to be okay with being alone for a little while to find your new normal.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's about courage, right?
Absolutely.
Like taking that step.
Mm-hmm.
Chloe, Bromage.
Fromage.
If you would have never be able to say another word. Like if you were to go up into a rocket ship and just send off into space after this podcast, and you can only give the listeners 3 things to level up their life right now and create more of extraordinary quality of life, what would they be?
Get a mentor, 100%, first and foremost. I think that's so important. That's changed my life. I know it's changed your life. It's, like you say, it's the proximity situation. It would be moving out of your hometown if you haven't already. Again, it's an environment thing. And it's take care of your health, because we realize if we're sick that we have nothing but our health. That's it.
I want to ask you a question on health. How do you maintain good physical, emotional, and mental health while hustling hard out and building a business? Because like no one creates extraordinary success without a little bit of stress in business and things going wrong.
Yep.
How do you find that balance of not burning out? For like, I hate that word.
Yeah, it's overused, but it's true.
And it's most people don't even know what it actually means.
I actually ended up in hospital from working too much when I was...
That's legit burnout. I think if you like actually get adrenal burnout and you're screwed.
I was internally bleeding. I had created a stomach ulcer, like from stress, and they were like, you probably should have at least a week off work. And I was like, no, it was that bad. And I don't think if I'd had a kick in the face like that, I probably would have learned how to have balance. And sadly, sometimes that was my boulder. That was my boulder over the head, was like, you're not slowing down, there you go.
So how do you do it now then? How do you maintain the balance?
Routine. 100%. It's like I actually structure in, when I structure in client calls, meetings, podcasts, whatever it may be, I structure in time with my partner, I structure in time by myself. So I actually will like block out and I just write Chloe on it. And that time I have to do something for myself. It doesn't matter what it is. I could lay on the couch and like friggin' look at the wall. But that is something that I've learned, no matter if, I don't have to go shopping or whatever, but it's just like being by myself, because that I find recharges me the most. So probably learning what recharges you, and then exercise and nutrition are absolutely a non-negotiable for me, for sure. I think I find that probably the easiest because it is a passion of mine. But I'm like, if you're somebody that doesn't, that's not easy for you, cooking, etc., it's like, make it easy for yourself. Get your groceries delivered. Get like friggin' U-Foods, or what are those meal prepped meals are. Like, make it as simple as possible. Having someone to hold you accountable to. If you've got a partner and you need to go to the gym together, go to the gym together. Get outside and watch your caffeine intake. Because every hustler I know has like too many cups of coffee a day.
Yeah, that's one thing I cut that out a long time ago.
Yeah.
I was gonna say something, but I totally forgot. No, when you started doing more time for yourself, did you notice your income increase?
Yes.
Yeah, isn't it freaking weird?
I didn't believe it until it happened. I was like, wow, I didn't work for 3 days last week and I made 3 times the money. What do you mean? But that's the thing, talking about energetics and money.
Yeah.
It's like money flows freely if you let it flow freely. When you get rigid and you get attached and you overdo it, it's like that to me doesn't say to the universe, God, whatever, that you're grateful for it. So why is it going to give you more? That's how I feel about it anyway. It is. It's so fascinating.
I love it. Chloe, this has been amazing. Where can everybody find you on social media?
Just at Chloe Bromage on Instagram. That's all my things, all my links, everything's in there. Come say hey.
I love it. Awesome. So to wrap this up, I got a final question. If you were to go back to your 18-year-old self and give her 30 seconds of advice, what would it be?
Don't waste time on boys. As basic as it is, we do often. I think guys do it as well. Waste a lot of time on people that don't support our growth. I just wouldn't choose that.
I love it. Boom.